platform is to sort of have an open discussion so that ideas come out, innovation comes out, and real value is actually added to the e-commerce industry, which is just burning right now in this country. So the aim of this at the end of the day is to equip small e-commerce business owners with the right tools and techniques that allow them to grow and scale their businesses by listening to the experts. When the experts tell you that this is the right platform to use, it gives you a better idea rather than just probably going on Google and figuring out what the best platform is for my business. So the topic of today's discussion is, because more and more ideas today are becoming e-commerce businesses, the biggest question there is, what is the right type of platform that we have to use in order to scale our business? That is the question that hopefully today our experts are going to answer for you. So I'll start by introducing our panel members. We'll start with Mr. Arjun Sarkar. So Arjun is an innovator and a problem solver. He has been leading e-commerce and supply chain transformations for a lot of global retailers. And currently now, he heads the digital solutions for Dubai Commerce City. His aim essentially is to develop e-commerce in a box so that e-commerce businesses find a way to integrate all the different types of services they need in one place. Our next panel member is Namrata Balwani. She's a digital marketing guru. Namrata has previously headed omnichannel strategy at one of the biggest retailers in the UAE. And today she heads her own consulting firm called Tough Love Advisors, where she helps businesses develop innovative solutions in MarTech and digital transformation. And our next panel member is Mr. Ibrahim Sutti. He's a passionate and energetic leader. He has 12 plus years of experience working to provide insightful and remarkable supply chain transformation for businesses. He's currently leading the consulting vertical at Aramex, and he is somebody who is the embodiment of someone who breaks barriers because he loves what he does. Okay. Finally, let me introduce you to our moderator. Our moderator is Anurag Vyala. He's the founder and CEO of Techies Infotech. He's an award-winning business leader and a serial entrepreneur. He has over 12 plus years of experience in this industry, and he works together with businesses to deliver real growth and also mentors a lot of startups back in India. The aim and essentially his vision is to build communities for e-commerce that foster innovation. Anurag, over to you.
Thank you so much, Vikram. So before I start, I would like to give you some background because this topic is personally very close to my heart. I've been working in this domain for almost like 5 years now, very closely with business owners, SMEs and enterprise businesses. I think the pain point is not about choosing the right platform at the initial stage, but it comes when you reach a certain scale, when you kick off and you start receiving orders, and when you get that scale wherein you talk about scalability, you talk about robustness, you talk about flexibility in the platform. That is where I see a lot of business owners struggling, migrating from one platform to another. A lot of cross-selling is happening. People who are using Magento, they try to move to some other enterprise platform. People in Shopify try to move to WooCommerce. WooCommerce is moving to Shopify. A lot of confusion out there. So I thought of being on the moderator side because I come with a lot of questions that come from the business owners of the e-commerce industry. So before I start, I think I would like to draw your attention towards 2020. That was, I think, something which all of us has experienced from an end user point of view as a consumer of e-commerce. When things were shut down completely during COVID, and we saw that surge in the online orders. The e-commerce industry went positive by 50%, and there were a lot of of new online shoppers out there. There was an instance where Amazon Prime did a sale of $10 billion, and a lot of new e-commerce businesses they popped up. Just because of the fact that around 20% of the retail stores got shut down, and major chunk of that revenue in retail it went to the e-commerce side of things. But now we see a correction. In that era, the industry grew from almost 10% to 45%. But now it is again correcting. The market is again coming back to normal. I wouldn't say this was a temporary surge, because definitely the penetration has increased, and a lot of people, especially in UAE, more than 95% people are using smartphones with internet-enabled devices. So a lot of disruption is already happening in this domain. With that note, Arjun, coming to the topic, I think the most important question which we would definitely like to hear from you is, what are the factors that are important to choose an e-commerce platform, not only as a startup, but also from a scale point of view, because that's really important. So if you can shed some light on that would be great.
Thank you, Anurag. A very good evening to all of you. You've asked me a very difficult question. There's no right and wrong in what is the best e-commerce platform or right e-commerce platform. I always believe in two things: fit for purpose, fit for use. But as a business owner, when you are talking about choosing an e-commerce platform, I believe there are 5 key pillars that you should look at. A, ease of use. If you are choosing a platform which is very difficult in terms of managing content or user experience, managing product information, catalog information, you will create a management nightmare, and you will not be able to reach out to your customers in time, right? The second factor is scalability. Now think of this. There is a business which does grocery online, and there is another business which does fashion online. Very different use cases, right? The grocery retailer needs to really think about scalability, because the cart size is going to be quite huge, and the performance needs to be absolutely tuned. But a fashion retailer may get away optimizing on that scalability aspect of it. Again, fit for purpose, fit for use. The third point is, how secure is your platform? You are taking customers' information, customers' data. You are asking customers to trust you, pay on your digital channel. Is your infrastructure secure enough from data breaches, from any fraudulent things happening during the transaction? So security is sometimes overlooked, but I believe that's a very, very key factor. Number 4 is future proofing. Anurag touched about digital commerce. I mean, earlier we thought using a browser and place an order on an online shop. That is the future. No, now everyone's using smartphones. You are placing orders through apps. You are placing orders through smart screens, kiosks, etc. Right? Sometimes you can even place orders on your smart watch. How do you, as a business, future-proof your investment? Because today you choose something, and in 2 years' time, if it becomes outdated, or the platform that you have chosen does not really help your growth or helps you reach where your customers are, you will have to do everything again. So that's from an investment perspective, there's a huge sunk cost involved. So I talked about ease of use, I talked about scalability, security, and future proofing. One last thing, as a technologist, obviously I would have stopped in the first four, but having been in this space for 15 years, working with multiple retailers, and having helped brands go online, both startups and enterprises, one thing I find is very important is the solution that a brand or business is choosing has to be commercially viable as well. I would not advise a startup to go with an enterprise-grade solution. Maybe they don't need it, and they would kill their overall business plan if they are investing too much into tech. I said earlier, fit for purpose, fit for use. It does not have to be something very, very fancy. It has to be something that caters to your growth plans, your business needs, and gives your end customers a seamless experience. So these, in my view, are the five most important things to scale a business and to select something that can help a brand grow in the digital commerce space.
Thank you so much, Arjun. I'm so glad that you took these points up, because I think these are the pillars of the criteria to select the right technology platform. And security, my personal favorite, because we are into e-commerce, and we are dependent on billions and billions of transactions, and security plays a big role. So, Namrata, my next question to you is: you have been at a leadership position. You have been leading big retailers in this region. So, from a MarTech point of view, what do you think these big retailers using as a tech stack, and how they have scaled up their business? I'm really excited to know about that.
First of all, this is on, right? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here. Nice to meet everyone in the room. Just to take your question forward, I'll say, when you look at most retailers that have grown in this region especially, it's been a lot of homegrown retailers, because that's the model that operates largely in the Middle East. There are families that start companies, and that's how those businesses have grown. So I think the early challenges that they faced were, there was a very strong legacy architecture and a very offline way of doing things, and they had to start doing things online. And that meant that they had to capture customer data properly. In my past experience, I've seen in where, and I will obviously not name the organization, but in one of the largest organizations here, the loyalty data, the storefront data, and the email marketing data were all sitting in different places, managed by different people, so they were unable to leverage the true growth, right? So at the end of the day, when you say scalability, even for an enterprise company, it's primarily about having the right customer data backed by the right architecture to enable certain things like recommendation, orchestration, building, let's say, not just acquisition, but a retention pipeline. How do you build a single customer view so that you earn more revenue per customer? So the key thing that has worked for all of these companies is to take a really long, hard look at their existing legacy architecture. Overlay it with the kind of tools that you would have today, but integrate it, because you can't change. It's very hard to change something that's been running for 20 years. But what you can do is optimize it and use a tool of today that enables you to get the benefit. So the first one, I'll say, is single customer view. The second one is really trying to understand customer motivations. So the one thing that sometimes we forget when we just look at data is, it's not just data, it's people, right? So you have to understand what makes this customer buy. That goes back to the principles of brand and marketing, but what makes this customer buy? What do I recommend when that customer comes onto my website or my app or whatever, that's going to make them interested in continually being my customer? So this side of things, again, is the second thing that the companies that have grown have done it very successfully in terms of the right recommendations by understanding your cohorts and your purchase behavior, and also understanding what's your retention cycle, drop-offs, and so on. And the third one, I'll say, which you can't get around the fact that whether you run an e-commerce business, a retail business, or anything else, you need to build a memorable brand. If you don't build a memorable brand, none of this e-commerce thing will eventually have value, because you have to keep spending money to acquire customers and then spend money again to reacquire them. So that might work in an initial cycle. If you want to bring down your CAC, you have to get into brand. And for me, I think it's not conventionally thought of that way, but it's very, very important even for an e-commerce business to have the right brand proposition. These would be the top three for me, and the last one would be the actual technology that you're using, how efficient it is.
I think you talked about data analytics, and I understand how crucial it is in e-commerce industry, because having data is one part of the story. You know, what you do with that data is very important, right? So I completely agree with you. I think, Ibrahim, very interesting question to you. Supply chain, efficient supply chain and logistics is the backbone of any e-commerce business, right? So from a technical standpoint, what do you think, you know, as a business owner who's just starting his e-commerce business, how technology can enable him to do the last mile delivery of his products? That's my question.
Thank you for having us.
There's an on button.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Anurag, and good evening to all of you. Really excited to be here. So, coming back to your question, Anurag, basically, supply chain is definitely the second leg of delivering the items to your customer, right? So this comes in the first leg, and you still have to deliver the shipment or the item to your customer. So technology over here, I would call it as the backbone or the complete emphasis of the retailer, the customer, and the supply chain partner, actually, because you need to have proper transformation of data right from the retailer coming to your website, capturing the information, processing the order, and pushing it to the supply chain partner to deliver it to the right place. So there are a lot of elements which come into the picture. So Aramex or any other supply chain partner would really invest on technology to connect the dots until the shipment or until the order is delivered to the customer, providing the correct visibility tools, because nowadays it's not about just showing where the parcel is or where the shipment is. Communicating with the customer through WhatsApp, through app has become very important. Scheduling options has become very important as well. Giving options of self-pickup has become important as well. So it has an operation setup plus a technology setup over it as well. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I think Ibrahim made a very important point. We talk about customer experience, and many a times we only associate customer experience to the website or the digital channel. We tend to forget the customer experience is equally important in the post-purchase journey. So pre-purchase, 100%, you need to make it easy for your customers to buy. But post-purchase, it can make and break your business. So I think using the right technology to deliver an amazing post-purchase experience is also very important.
Absolutely. I think you're spot on, because I feel, the way things are moving ahead, people are expecting same-day deliveries, and the technology has to be efficient enough to cater to the needs of the end consumer.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think we are so spoiled, we want 10-minute delivery.
Yeah. I was talking to my colleague. He just came from India, and he was talking about Blinkit. There's a company called Blinkit, and they are doing deliveries in 7 minutes. And I was like, it's insane, delivering stuff in 7 minutes. That's where the industry is heading.
The expectation is really high.
Expectations are very high. Yeah. So, Arjun, you talked about the 5 pillars of choosing the right platform. I am a small-time business owner. Now I understood, these are the factors that I should consider while choosing my platform. But what options do I have which are available in the market to choose the right platform for my business?
So there are multiple options. If I could take a few names, for example, we all know about Shopify, we talk about Magento, we talk about enterprise-grade platforms such as Hybris and Salesforce, and there's a new breed of composable, so-called composable commerce platforms which are becoming, See, broadly, if you classify commerce platforms, you have 2 sets. One is a commerce platform, which is software as a service. So basically, you're not structure for the commerce platform. You're kind of getting a package something which is almost ready to use, and that kind of fast tracks your time to market. At the same time, reduces your overhead in terms of having or maintaining large IT teams. So that's one part of it, which is the software as a service. And then you have, for example, Shopify would fall into that category. And then you have the platform as a service like Magento, where you need to have people to manage the servers, you need to have people to manage the security aspect as we talked about earlier. Both have their pros and cons. When you go with software as a service, you're kind of limited to some extent in terms of how much customization you can bring it on the platform. Or on the other hand, platform as a service gives you like the sky's the limit, you can do anything and everything. But again, depending on the appetite and the need of the business, you got to choose what makes sense, right? So, as I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a thing. Based on your business needs, you would either go the software as a service route. For example, a startup business, right? Do they need to really invest in a large infrastructure and bring that overhead on their overall business operating cost? Maybe no, right? They can get something off the shelf which fast tracks their time to market and reduces their IT investment. As opposed to someone like an enterprise-grade customer, large retailer who, you know what, they have a lot more complex business logic, business rules which need to be built into the system. Maybe a pre-packaged software may not be able to give them that flexibility, so they would go with those packaged platforms. But I do see a change in the trend. I use the term composable architectures. It's a completely new pattern which is coming. And even smaller businesses are sometimes smaller in the sense, startup businesses are also going in that fashion, in that route. But they're breaking down the large e-commerce platform into smaller blocks. How does that help? Like, so if I talk about an e-commerce platform, essentially we need to have some way to manage the products and catalog, some way to manage the content, some way to manage the orders, the checkout, the payment, the shipping. Many times, in traditionally we have seen, all of this are packaged into one large platform. But that platform may not be good at everything, right? So then it's a compromise. Do you go with best of breed, something which is exceptional in the content management, and then you tie it or stitch it to something which is amazing in your checkout journey? That's one way of looking at it. Or you say, you know what? I'll compromise on this because there is a lot of overhead in managing all of this, and I'll go with something which is like everything inside a box. So when deciding on the e-commerce platform, going back to my previous answer about choosing the right e-com platform, it's about making sure not overly complicating things, but at the same time I'm building something which can stand the test of time. I don't have to replace it in another 3, 4, 5 years. That's what I think is the way to go about.
I think the pricing plays a very crucial role while deciding platforms. You talked about SaaS, Shopify is definitely leading the entire market on the SaaS side. And on the PaaS side, you have Magento, which is acquired by Adobe, and it's now Adobe Commerce Cloud. But one straightforward question to you, if you were to suggest somebody who is just planning to launch an e-commerce store, would you prefer going the PaaS way or the SaaS way?
So my preference, I'm a big fan of software as a service because straight away it reduces your capex and you can actually convert your investment into more OPEX because software as a service is pay-as-you-go model. Based on your consumption, you pay. So a business which is starting up, I would definitely recommend go the software as a service route. And later on, definitely once you go to a certain level, if you feel your SaaS platform is not able to cater to your needs, then only consider a PaaS. Otherwise, even larger players are going into a SaaS model. Salesforce, for example, like Salesforce is one of the leading products when it comes to enterprise grade e-commerce platform. They have SaaS or VTEX commerce tools, again enterprise grade. They are also SaaS. So I think SaaS is the way forward. I think.
I agree with you. And there's a thin line because platforms like Shopify, they have the enterprise version which is called Shopify Plus, which competes with the likes of Adobe and Salesforce, and I think SaaS is the future for sure. So Nupta, that's one side of the story, you know, a business owner opening up a retail store online, and then they expect business to come automatically, which doesn't happen, right? So it's like opening a shop and expecting customers to come, but for that you have to do a lot of strategic planning around marketing and understanding the nuances of the platform, right? So from a marketing perspective, what is your suggestion to the people who are just starting up, who are in the initial stage of setting things up and expecting some traction coming into the platform? What do you suggest to them?
The first thing I'll say is have the right idea of your TAM, which is your total addressable market. I think the number one reason why a lot of companies fail to attract customers is simply they don't truly understand what is their addressable market, and that makes a huge difference to how many of these customers you can bring onto your website. And it also translates into, if you don't understand your TAM, maybe the products that you stock are not relevant to your TAM, right? So there's a lot of work involved in this part of saying what's my TAM, what's my SAM. The second part of it is saying, okay, now that I have identified it correctly and I have the right products, people are still not buying. In which case you have to go through the typical cycle of understanding your data and saying, when are people coming to the site? How often do they come? Where do they drop off? Why am I facing cart abandonment? Is it my UI UX? Is it my technology? Is it simply not offering the customer the right recommendation? One thing I'll say, even for the biggest of companies in this region, I find the search to be really bad. You go to any large website even and you put in a search, everything you get is irrelevant. So we have to think about it very logically as, in the customer journey, what is important for this customer, and is every stage of the journey optimized for that person to finally make a purchase. So let's say now we've done this whole hygiene, then it's about saying what would bring this customer onto my site. It is not only about offers, because while offers are attractive, you have to remember that once the offer is over, people will stop coming, or they will wait for the next offer to come around. So we need to balance between relying on offers to bring in customers and retaining them through true value that you're offering in either the range or the experience. We talked about the customer experience. A make or break can even be retailer small business A and small business B are direct competitors, and A just delivers better. If you deliver better, you retain that customer, right? So it's about these small things. And the third aspect is making your communication memorable. Most of this memorability today comes through the use of technology, because through technology you track customer data, you understand their needs and wants, and you understand their behavior, you understand whether they bought a pair of blue jeans and you want to suggest them to buy a white shirt, but you use technology to deploy that message through a channel that works for that customer. That means you don't send everybody the same SMS, the same email, the same WhatsApp message, because then they just put you on spam and they'll never listen to you again. Most sophisticated marketing tools today allow for understanding the best time, the best message, and the best channel to reach the customer, so that they open your message and they respond to it. So implementing that kind of technology is important. And I think the fourth one is very simply put, how are you creating that dissonance in the mind of the customer always to say, I am better than my competitor. And that comes through compelling messaging, copywriting. I mean, I know we have ChatGPT, but the fact is that even outside of ChatGPT, you need a really good, persuasive design and copy people, or a team that's able to understand customer behavior and translate that into how do I get this customer back onto my website.
I think perfectly makes sense. You talked about the search part, and you talked about the right communication has to be out there. But I feel another challenge that small businesses are facing, primarily on the performance marketing side. They are competing with big giants who are always there at the top. They have booked these spots on Google and all the searches. So what do you think is the right strategy? Is it competing directly with Amazon and Noom, or creating your own little place out there to address and target the right audience? So what do you think is a right mix when it comes to the marketing, performance versus organic?
So again, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this. The advantage of a marketplace is immediate access to customers. You do not have to find them. You just have to make sure your listings are optimized and your price point is correct for that customer to eventually make a purchase. The con is you don't own that customer and you don't have that data. And today, we all want data. We want to own it not just because of privacy laws, but because it makes sense to understand who's your customer. At the start, although it does make sense for a small business to consider this kind of distribution to customers, because the scale that an Amazon or a Google brings to the table, they cannot replicate, they cannot outspend. What you can do is use that as a starting point, provide enough value to make a name, and start building your own personal channel and e-commerce platform of your own by already using Amazon or Noom as a test case. If you're able to get 100,000 transactions, imagine how much you learn, even if you don't capture that data. So you use it to learn about consumer behavior, which would be very, very expensive for a standalone business to do these experiments. And then you take that learning and start building your own channel. So having said that, there's no right or wrong. To be fair, a lot of companies that operate in niche, in luxury, or in very, very premium areas always prefer to launch their own because they want to retain control of their brand. So it also depends on what's the product category you operate in, how competitive it is, and how difficult it's going to be for you to reach that customer, and then you wait. And just one last point on the part of performance marketing. Most definitely, the performance marketing scenario is not the same as it was 5 years ago. It is increasingly more expensive. There are many more algorithms and companies that have gained this already, and so it's always going to be hard. And that's why the one thing I stressed at the start is performance marketing can only take you so far, because you cannot keep spending money. You can't wipe out your budget on performance marketing. You need to build that customer experience to get people back and use that win back to generate revenue rather than going after them again and retargeting to bring the same customer back. So that has to be clear.
Yeah, I keep telling to my customers the performance marketing is like a tap. Till the time it's open, the water is coming, the revenues are coming. The moment you close it, the revenues are gone. So it always has to be a mix of performance and organic, and of course the brand life. Ibrahim, I have an interesting question for you. Assuming that I am new to this region, I want to start selling my products in the Middle East. How Aramex can help me with the supply chain logistic and the last mile delivery? And what has been your experience while working on similar projects where people who want to start e-commerce in Middle East, and what kind of challenges these businesses are facing?
Okay. So there are a lot of startups who come in just with an idea, saying, this is my idea, this is what I want to do, you tell us what to do. So we take them through the complete supply chain first, operationally, saying, okay, where are you going to buy your raw materials or manufactured goods, how are you going to store it in the country, and which markets are you going to target, basically. Is it going to be only the specific region or a specific country, and so on. Based on that, then we build up a solution for them in terms of, let's say the import part, the fulfillment part, and the last mile supply. So the key questions would be, what is their expectation and what is their target market over there? And then we work with our partners in terms of marketing, in terms of market content, and we connect with them. We also have connections with free zones, for example, TCC and DWC and so on and so forth. We also help them set up their companies in terms of licensing, and so on and so forth. Because they might be, as I said, they just come with an idea and we take them through the complete end-to-end supply chain. One recommendation for startups, which I always give, if your inventory is very small, try to work it out from maybe a small office rather than outsourcing it, because that's where the commercial benefit comes to you as a startup. Once you scale up, then it's when you would need a fulfillment partner to manage your the orders and then do the last mile. So my recommendation to startups is always look for the last mile first and then go for the fulfillment when you want to scale up.
Just to add, we're doing a similar thing at the eCommerce. Since you mentioned TCC, yes, we are helping businesses start up with providing licenses, etc. And we are giving businesses the flexibility to store their goods maybe in their offices if their operations is really small, or make use of our fulfillment as a service option, which is more pay as you go. If you have just a few units, you don't need a dedicated warehouse or something. We're also looking at our partnerships with Aramex and making the whole fulfillment process very seamless and cost effective. The idea, being part of a government entity, the idea is to boost the whole digital commerce market in the UAE, and the vision from the leadership of the country is also that Dubai has to be the e-commerce hub of Middle East. So, the ecosystem is growing. We have partners like Techies Infotech, we have partners like Aramex. The idea is how do we help the startup businesses to really scale and grow.
Makes sense completely. So my question to the audience, how many of you actually choose cash on delivery over prepaid options? COD fans, how many of them? Alright, so I have, Ibrahim, this again goes to you. I have witnessed a lot of issues in returns and refunds, especially in fashion domain. Fashion industry is literally struggling with returns and refunds. So how Aramex is, addressing this problem, and what is your take on cash on delivery?
So I was surprised actually only a couple of people raised their hand, because COD is actually, it has to be more than that. Some markets have 70% COD versus 30% prepaid, but I think the mentality is changing, especially in the UAE. People opt for the prepaid option because they have access to their credit cards, they trust the system. While in Saudi Arabia, it's a totally different ballgame actually. People opt for cash on delivery over there. So the challenge, there is a pro and con for both basically. So with COD, obviously you can capture a larger market. Okay, people who don't have credit cards, who are visiting your website for the first time, they don't basically trust whatever the payment gateway, they don't want to add their credit card details on the first purchase. Coming back to the return, so for us, return is basically the last touch point of a consumer and the last experience, because that's where the journey ends basically, if there is a return. And a very important factor of refund is associated with returns, which people are really focused on, right? So we have, as Aramex, basically have enhanced our customer experience even for the return leg actually. So we have come up with a lot of things like WhatsApp bot even for the return leg. We currently had it only for the first leg or for the forward leg. Now we have created that for the return leg, where customers can schedule pickups, arrange drop-offs through our spots or through our outlets as well. There is another element of returns basically, because we want to spend minimum time at the customer's facility, not to check the QC and all that stuff, because customers might not be happy that a guy is coming, checking everything before moving up, right? So we do a very minimum basic check of QC, saying, okay, if I have to collect one piece of shoe, I will collect one piece of shoe, but now this has been changed actually. So there is a order level pickup which happens where you even scan barcodes if it's available. We are coming up with new solutions of even taking a picture, pushing it to the e-tailer or the warehousing to provide instant refunds actually. So the leg of collecting the physical item till it reaches the warehouse and you do the QC might take 2 or 3 days, right? Which is a very long period to do the refund actually. Customers will not like it. So you take a picture, send it through your to the QC team, and they provide the instant refunds as well. There is a lot of work going on returns and how to make it more easier actually, day by day.
That's actually pretty amazing. You know, instant refunds is something everybody is looking for.
Correct.
But I think if there is a negative feedback, you guys face the heat instead of the brand. You know.
Absolutely.
So how do you take that? I mean, how do you keep the team motivated, and how do you make sure that people are on their toes always?
So basically, yeah, the motivation is important because this is what we do. This is our key area of making sure that supply chain is seamless. We have customers, different types of customers who have different types of expectations, and we build our solutions based on that, right? So in certain markets, we might have to not call the customer at all. We basically design our services based on that, or a specific market. A specific retailer, like for example, if we have an retailer who are into high value brands who have like very niche customers as well, they give us specific instructions that you have to call the customer, say this, not say this. So we kind of design our the communication and the systems based on that. So this is where we can customize based on what the customer or the retailer expects us to do.
All right, amazing. Arjun, my next question to you is: there are a lot of software development agencies out there offering services like e-commerce platform development. There are Shopify partners offering Shopify development services. So typically, what are the questions that, as a business owner, you should be asking these agencies while onboarding the right tech partner?
We do deal with a lot of clients who come to us and say, you know what, I want to start my business, e-commerce, can you recommend the right partners? I think a few key things we look at: the partners, the credentials, whether they have done some good projects, public references, etc. Obviously, the public reference is a big thing, right? I mean, if someone is there to vouch that you've received good quality service from their partner, it's nothing like that. You do trust people rather than trusting just a review somewhere on Google, because we all know, right? I mean, a lot of things can be manipulated, but if I'm talking to a business owner who avails the service from the partner and is happy, that's possibly the most important thing. I think as a business owner, I should also look at carefully at the terms and conditions on when they send their contract, etc. Many times there are fine print things, and with all due respect to agencies, and this is something I've seen over the years and being part of a service delivery companies, sometimes I've experienced this as well. There is an initial scope of work, and the moment you deviate and say, you know what, I need this functionality, all of a sudden the agent says, change request, they send another bill. Now, these are the things which sometimes really hurt. The initial proposal could have been, say, 100,000 dirhams, dollars, whatever it is, but the agent ends up making another 100,000 just to change request. Yeah, but even if there are these minor changes. So, as a business, look at the terms and conditions. Agency, there are agencies, good agencies, and I'm happy to say, we are quite happy with how Techies Infotech handles clients. I think, just like you guys, and I take you as a reference, and individually you as a person as well. I think your desire to go the extra mile to make sure the customer is happy. It's not about charging or extracting more money out of the customer through changing requests, etc. It's about ensuring and delivering something which the customer can be happy with, which the customer can make use of and can expand and grow their business. If there is a partner which has this vision, this philosophy, I would say go with that partner Because then actually you're talking to a partner, not to an agency who is executing on something. So you need a partner, not just a company who's after your money. I mean, easier said than done. There are good service providers who follow this philosophy, and there are service providers who don't really understand this. But it's very important. If I'm running my own business, I would rather go with someone who thinks of my brand as their own and my success as their success.
Absolutely, I think, thank you for the appreciation, by the way. I think you summed it up the right way, because the basic difference is, working as a partner and adding a lot of value to the customer ecosystem, rather than, talking about man hours, and, there's a different perspective altogether. Talking about the agencies, there are a lot of digital marketing agencies out there, and there is a thought process that generally comes, especially in this region, that the agency should have a local flavor. They should have a local presence. According to you, what do you think? How important it is for a business to have people who understand this region, or is it like pretty standard process that is being followed when it comes to marketing?
The process, in terms of the process of selecting, and I would just like to add one point to even selecting an e-commerce company to work, is a lot of business owners may not understand technology, and you don't have to, but it's really important to have a list of your use cases when you're talking to anybody, because people will come and say they do everything, but if you go line by line and say which of these do you do and how, you'll be able to find out certain differences in different platforms. When it comes to digital or marketing agencies, is the local flavor important? It depends on your market. Certainly, if Saudi Arabia is your biggest market, you need somebody who understands Saudi culture, and not just Saudi culture, because the Riyadh culture and the Jeddah culture are completely different. So it depends on who you want to market to, but if a place like Saudi or a place like Kuwait is important, while you might have an agency operating out of another region who's really good at developing, let's say, the marketing idea, the proposition, and so on, you could use that, but use a local agency to add the local flavor. It's pretty much also how a lot of global brands operate, right? They go local, so when they have a global proposition, but then they use local agencies to do localized work. So again, it depends on who's your, and one of the, I'm cutting myself, but one of the important things I've also noticed about UAE is, people come and thinking UAE is a homogeneous market, but it is actually dramatically the opposite of that. You need to understand Emiratis, you need to understand Arab expats, they are not the same as Emiratis. Within Arab expats, Saudis are not the same as Lebanese. Then you have to understand the Indians, the Pakistanis, and so on. Then you have to understand the Filipinos, and then you have to understand people from Nigeria, from Kenya, they come from all over the world. The UAE is really a melting pot. So one of the biggest things that I've seen failing here is applying the same campaign to every single cultural situation, which is not the case. So that again is an important leg. When I say localized, it's not just about Arab, but it's also about understanding who are my audiences and how do I relay the same message to a Filipino versus to an Indian. They're going to be very, very different to make them understand the same thing, because you have to delve into their culture to make that connection. And therefore, on balance, I'll say depending on your market, localization definitely is important.
I completely second you on this. And at the outset, it seems like Dubai is the entry point for MENA region. And when you start operating in this region, you understand, UAE is completely different from Saudi, and the entire GCC region, they have their own local flavor, their own local dialects, and like you said, the distribution of the expats. It's really important to understand. So, Ibrahim, what do you think, this distribution, we are talking about the marketing challenges from a logistics perspective, how different is Saudi Arabia, for example, from UAE and other GCC regions?
Well, Saudi is a different world altogether, to be honest, and it comes with its challenges for sure. And when it comes to not only marketing, even about supply chain part, you have to cater to that market in a separate way. As I said, Saudi is a huge cash on delivery market actually, compared to what you do in UAE or other markets. So you have to cater and you have to have the right inventory, the right market content for that specific area. Supply chain, as I said, it's challenging because Saudi geographically it's very big. Not all supply chain partners delivers to each and every corner of Saudi Arabia. So, for example, as Aramex, we don't do the last mile in Makkah and Medina. We have a pickup option over there. Okay, so you need to educate and you need to have the ecosystem to have right outlets at the right location in those areas, so the customer can come pick up their option. And you have to make that particular communication also very, very easier to tell them your parcel is here, come and pick it up, and you have to make it as a good customer experience, because sometimes customers might take a step back saying, why should I go and pick it up, right? So the tier 4 area that I acquired in Saudi Arabia, over the years, because they are aware that they have to go and pick it up, what we as a supply chain partner did is we popped up a lot of outlets and something called as spots. What is spots is we tie up with local pharmacies and supermarkets, we drop the shipments over there, and then the customer can select the nearest supermarket or pharmacy to go and pick it up. It really works wonders in these areas.
Wow, this is something which I didn't know, and this is pretty interesting. They pick up in Saudi. Alright, so closing notes, because we have to take some questions from the audience as well. Arjun, DCC, we talk about partnerships, we talk about omni-channel integration. How is DCC helping small business owners to get started?
Okay, so the eCommerce Techies was briefly talking about earlier. From a business setup perspective, providing the licenses to set up. B, providing them an option to store their goods in a free zone. Obviously, it comes with the free zone benefits of exemption from VAT and import duty, which helps cash flow a lot, right? And then when you're doing cross-border also, free zones are very ideally suited for your cross-border deliveries. In addition to that, what my role is within the organization, this is something over the last 1 year I've been trying to build, is to create a connected e-commerce ecosystem. We talk about e-commerce, we talk about technology, but I think there is consulting. How do I enter a market? How do I create a business plan? How do I make sure I am creating a commercially viable plan to move forward? So we help with that. We do help choose the right platforms. We help customers get onboarded on the right technology platforms. We are helping businesses with their performance marketing strategy, fulfillment as a service, content production. So if someone's got products, you can bring it over. We take care of the content production in terms of photographs, the video shooting, etc. Translation as a service. The idea is to create one connected ecosystem which caters to all the different moving parts that are required for any business. Not to forget about data. Once you're creating this connected ecosystem, you are creating a connection to gather a lot of data. And as we were discussing earlier, it's not just about collecting the data, using the data in the right way, using clean data in the right way. So we are really focused on building this connected ecosystem which helps businesses to set up, scale, and grow.
Alright, I think this is what a business needs, all services under one roof and 360-degree solutioning is what DCC is offering, which is amazing. Namrata, one last question to you. You have been mentoring a lot of startups and businesses in e-commerce domain. So I know you are into advisory services and you also do consulting. So what value we can expect from you as a consultant if anybody wants to collaborate with you, what value you can add to your ecosystem?
Sure. And the first thing I'll say about Tough Love or Tough Love Advisors and why we exist is we have decades of experience in multiple markets and multiple product categories, and virtually between the 9 of us as partners, almost every sector that you can think about. And so we bring that value to companies who may be starting out today, but they want to start out correctly, right? What is the correct way to identify, for example, your TAM? What is the correct way to build a GTM, which is a go-to-market strategy? What is the correct way to identify how your data should be set up, the correct way to look at tools and technology? Not to say choose this tool, but what do you need, or what is what he spoke about, fit for purpose or fit for use? What is it that you need at this point in time? And this can be in many different ways. Some of these are smaller engagements where they could be literally about only one aspect, market demand, for example, or consumer understanding. Some of these are larger projects which are saying, spend maybe 3 months, build out a detailed GTM, and also tell me how to implement it, right? Because it's okay for a consultant to come in and give you a strategy, but if they just leave you with this document, you don't know what to do with it after that. So we do the hand-holding through who do you hire, do you outsource, how do you build that out? And if that works even further is to say, I want an outsourced CMO for 6 months, because I'm not going to be able to focus on the CMO side, it's not my area of expertise, but I want someone with the right experience, then I come in as a CMO as a service and do that function also, which would mean saying, hire these people, do the interviews, get them on board, give them the roadmap, how do they implement things, be accountable for certain KPIs and so on. So it's a pretty bespoke model. It's very, very tailored and customized to what is the stage of the organization and what's the value that they expect from us.
That sounds amazing, CMO as a service.
Exactly.
Very, very promising. Alright, Abraham, one last question to you. How Aramex can help business owners with the supply chain logistics and last mile delivery?
So as I said earlier, people come to us just with an idea, and then we help them map everything right from the supply chain and connecting them to our partners in the tech and free zone part of it as well. So it's not about just picking up something and delivering, it's about consultative services. Moving freight, doing the fulfillment part, adding value to the fulfillment part, like let's say bring a bulk shipment, break it up, hanger on goods, labeling, stitching, assembly, everything is provided at a one-stop shop for you basically. And then obviously the last mile, the return leg, processing, the CODs is something which we offer our customers in a nutshell, right? And this comes with 40 years of experience. Aramex has been one of the pioneers in the e-commerce industry. Plus, we are like a local company over here. We are born out of UAE, so we understand the market well. We are growing in other sectors, other regions. We are known as a Middle Eastern company, but we are everywhere now actually as Aramex. So if you want to grow outside the Middle East as well, look at Europe, look at US, look at Australia, New Zealand, we can provide you our services over there. So as I said, one-stop shop for a supply chain.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. So before we break to the Q&A section, I thank all of you for being here. I think it was indeed a very productive discussion, and I just love having the conversation with all of you. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
Any questions from the audience? We would love to hear. Can we switch off the AC, please? We are freezing.
I'm already like, I don't know how many more shawls
I think now with the questions coming, the heat will
Hi, good evening, everyone. So, just a very quick question around the e-commerce platform thing. We're hearing you've got SaaS and you've got PaaS side of it. Where does this headless commerce thing sit? There are so many jargons every day. There's one new jargon, one new term that comes in, and everyone's talking about it, but there's hardly any clarity around that. So, what would this headless commerce look like, and what would be the platforms that are within this commerce arena?
We were just discussing this before this
So, trying to keep it short. I mean, as a business, if you are planning to have a presence say, on online, and if you want to have a presence offline, you want to sell your products through multiple different channels. That's where this concept of headless comes. The heads are nothing but the channels. So the way you build your e-commerce engine is you can plug it in to any channel. You don't have to create a separate stack for your online store and a separate stack for your mobile app and a third stack for a kiosk in the mall. So headless as a concept does not only apply to e-commerce, headless as a concept applies to building technology applications in a way which is truly omni-channel. You would also hear terms like API first, cloud native. So it all essentially builds up into the whole concept of making your application in such a way that it can power where your customers are. So if you want to know more about it, go and Google MACH. Is microservices, API first, cloud native, headless. This is an architecture pattern. There is a global non-profit alliance called Mac Alliance. I am a global ambassador for Mac, and the idea is there's a movement kind of happening where we feel, and Gartner, the leading analyst, has already acknowledged that Mac is the future, considering the explosion of channels, with technology evolving. We're saying that your car can become an ordering channel. Your refrigerator can be an ordering channel. But then do you start creating multiple e-commerce platforms? I mean, from management perspective, just imagine if I have to upload my product and content on all of these channels, it's a nightmare. That's where the whole concept is talking about composability. How do you make it in such a modular way that it can power any of the channels? Obviously, this comes at a cost. Again, going back to the first thing, fit for purpose, fit for use. Maybe headless is not the right thing to consider for a certain business. If you are going to be a pure play, you don't need headless. But the moment you touch upon omni-channel, yes, that will future-proof your business.
I hope this answers your question. All right. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, please.
Nayab here. I have a question for Mr. Ibrahim. Sir, as you said, the order which is returned, how do you combat the reverse logistic cost? Does it fall on the customer? Does it fall in your company? Or does it fall on the organization who has provided the wrong product?
Thank you, Nawab, right?
Nayab,
thank you for the question. So, the cost of return is always on the retailer, right? But it's up to them if they want to push this cost on the end consumer. So, there will be certain return-related terms and conditions, right? That say, okay, if you want to return it because of these reasons, you have to pay a return cost, right? So, once they place the request through API or through the channel, the return cost automatically gets deducted from their refund, right? So it's up to the retailer to decide if they want to offer free returns or they want to take this cost. In what scenario do they need to bill the customer, and which scenario they don't need. So certain high-ended brands, they will not charge the return fee because it's a very small element of the total cost, right? So a customer or a retailer with very small basket value will probably charge this back to the consumer.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? Yeah, I think we're all good. All right. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.